Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the March Makers U meetings for the Colleagues of Calligraphy. We are just thrilled to have you here with us here this evening, as well as our keynote speaker, Julie. But let's get an official welcome going here, and let's say welcome to our president, Colleen. So, hi, Colleen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I see that there are 26 of us here, which is awesome. Welcome to all of you. We have 29 people, I believe, registered for the weekend. So others will be joining us tomorrow. Um, I think that's really awesome for the fourth anniversary of the Maker U. It's surprising, I guess, as I think back 4 years ago when we were first planning such an endeavor and didn't know how it might roll, but I think we can count it as a success at this point. So just a few brief things. As we've been discussing, we have our 50th anniversary celebration at St. John's next month on Friday, April 24. We have 60 people registered for the event, and we have a full day of activities planned and a nice luncheon. I really want to thank the members of the planning committee, which Deborah Manning, as Ann mentioned earlier, has been keeping us all on track. And Patricia Olson also has been a key point person with St. John's University in coordinating the events for the day. So thanks to you two in particular and to the whole committee. Related to that, we are inviting members and friends to submit art trading cards for a display that day at St. John's. Anne has a couple display cases, I believe, made specifically for our trading cards. Those 2.5 by 3.5 inch works of art. Encourage everybody to submit by, I think, is it April 11, Anne, that you would like
Yep.
to have those? Anne and Patricia will be putting that exhibit together. Uh, and we do have a display area, probably in the lunch area at St. John's. And then I'm really excited about this. The colleagues had a long tradition of an annual exhibit, member work exhibit, but we have not done that in the probably last 10, 15 years. But thanks to Sally Whitekin, we do have an exhibit planned at the Cargill Gallery at the downtown Minneapolis Public Library this coming October and November. It's open to all members. We aren't, it is not juried, so people who are brand new to calligraphy, people who have been doing it forever, all welcome to submit work for this exhibit. I think pieces are going to be due toward the end of August, so be thinking about it now. We won't hang it until the first part of October, but we do need to get everybody engaged by the end of the summer. Sally Whitekin is doing a presentation tomorrow on finishing your work. That is all those pieces that you've done and done nothing with except put in a drawer. She will be talking about how to get those framed and ready for exhibition. I'm excited about the Joe White Scholarship, which we have not offered for a couple of years. Patricia Olson has stepped up to coordinate that. We are planning to get materials out soon with applications due in September of this year. And then finally, I would be remiss not to note that we are looking for a few key board and leadership positions that we'll be needing to fill in the next couple months. I won't belabor that. This is my fourth year as president, so my term is beyond done. So we do need a president. We will need a secretary. Anne needs some assistance. She's done a yeoman's job managing both workshops and programs for the last several years, but could use some help. And we need tech support people, people to work with Sally on communication. So you'll be hearing more about that. Just wanted to put that in people's minds as we move into our 51st year to make sure that we're here to celebrate our 100th. Thank you, Ann. Back to you.
Thank you, Colleen. Let me get back to my share here. All right, a couple of reminders. Find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram. Sally would love some help keeping our Instagram page up to date. And if you're working on a piece, post it and tag colleagues of calligraphy, please. We'd love to see what you're doing and how your artistry is making the world a brighter place. Trading cards, you get them in the mail by the 11th of each month. You can contact me for more information. Our trading card program was featured as the cover on Bound and Lettered last year. So this has been a great program. Each month we have a theme. So my trading card bucket in the dining room is nice and full. So I'm really excited to see a whole lot of new names that I've never seen before from the colleagues for our March trading cards. Thank you very much for getting those in the mail. April, our theme is falling snow or rising flowers. May, you get to pick your theme. And then June is how green is your garden? That's wishful thinking because I live in the techno tundra. And just a little sneak peek, these are some of the trading cards that I have received previously from our members. These are just a few of trading cards from our members that you'll be able to see up close in person at St. John's. So I've started scanning cards, and we will create a digital exhibition, and we'll share that out with everybody. But just look at this great work and diversity of work, and every time I look at them, my heart sinks. So for all of you who have been participating in trading cards, thank you so very, very much. April is our in-person celebration at St. John's, May 18th. We have an in-person meeting at Hillside at the church on the south side of town. There's plans afoot for some summer get-togethers so that we can keep meeting in person and keep working on our skills and learning from each other. September will be our kickoff for our new program year. Again, we're going to do an in-person meeting at Hillside. And then October, last year, Jean Formo did a pencil and calligraphy workshop for us in person at the church, and it was outstanding. So we're going to build on that success with an October in-person workshop. Sally Whiteman's going to teach us about Newland on the Saturday and the Sunday. And the Friday night, I'm going to give you a lecture on some of the modern scripts that have been developed and invented and calligraphers enjoy. So we're going to have a wonderful weekend in October again. 50th anniversary. Colleen covered this in detail, so we really are looking forward to spending the day at St. John's. For those of you that are visiting us here, the St. John's Bible Project was heavily influenced by some of our members, and people like Joe White were driving force behind the partnership between St. John's Abbey and Donald Jackson. And the first calligraphy conference that Donald Jackson taught at in South Africa was at St. John's Abbey was hosted by the Colleagues of Calligraphy in 1981 or 1982. So the Colleagues of Calligraphy should be very, very proud of their role in the creation and development of the Book of Kells of Minnesota in the US, the St. John's Bible. Maker University this is our kickoff tonight with our keynote speaker, Julie. Um, the If you are registered, and I see your note there, Roxana, um, we have links out there, and I will do another email blast tonight to make sure everybody's got the Zoom link for tomorrow, as well as the three handouts that you will need. We're really, really excited to have a lovely day with a diversity of programming, hands-on stuff, learning from each other. And Pat Barrett is going to give us a presentation on her years of calligraphy, her portfolio. And if you want to get a vision of where you can end up as a calligrapher, how do you start and how do you build up skills and how do you get a traction as a calligrapher, she has a wonderful story to tell, and she'll be sharing that with us and her artwork tomorrow afternoon. So we really are excited. This is our schedule for tomorrow. There are 15-minute breaks between sessions, so it's not high pressure, go, 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 go all day. It's going to be a fantastic day. Yes, you can still register. That's my plug. So, any other announcements from anybody who's joining us here this evening? Please do unmute yourself and call them out if you have any.
Just wanted to put in a notice to everybody that at St. John's next month, I am going to be somewhere outside, probably to just be in the afternoon demonstrating a letter carving. I'll be working on something.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I don't know yet where they're going to put me, and it might be weather dependent too.
We're working on a spot, Janie.
Yeah,
We got you covered.
hopefully it'll be nice weather and I can just set up my workmate somewhere. So if you hear like ding, 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 that's me working away on something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any other questions or announcements?
Oh, how many people are signed up for St. John's?
I think Colleen said 60.
60 people signed up. Yeah, I think
Good.
members and their guests, totaling 60 at this point. And we have space in the auditorium for 62. We'll figure something out if we get more registered.
I'll
We're not
sit
going
on
to
the
turn
steps.
anybody away, but we've definitely met our expectations, so that's exciting.
That is brilliant. I hadn't realized that we were gonna fill the house. So yay, everybody. It should be an amazing day, and it will be one of the last times that you'll be able to get up close and personal with Unbound Pages. And Jean Formo is going to be taking care of a table from the Minnesota Manuscript Initiative. That's a huge project that the colleagues were very instrumental in that created a calligraphy collective that's housed up at St. John's. I don't know if Jean, if you want to say something more about your table, you're going to have to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, it won't be a table. It will be about 15 tables because this
Okay,
is
you
a
see?
large collection and it will be available for everyone to see. We're probably not going to touch, but there'll be plenty for you to see. And I and a few other people will be around telling you what's what, and we will touch and open books for you, that kind of thing.
Going to be wonderful. Such a rare opportunity. And so thank you again. Thanks to everybody who has been working so hard on our 50th. Any other questions or announcements? All right. We're almost perfectly at 7 o'clock. Look at that, Julie. So a big warm welcome to Julie Wildman. I always think of her as being in Chicago. She isn't. She's in northern Indiana, which she says it's like a suburb. So I
Yes.
think that's just great. Um, Julie is a professional in the fields of graphic design, commercial lettering, calligraphy, and I know her through her workshops. Um, she's been doing this wonderful work for 25 years, and she says that she loves using both sides of her brain to create, to bring a creative spark. She also has superb organizational skills. She has kept me organized this week. It's been fantastic to work with a presenter who's so keen that every I is dotted and every T is crossed, because everything she does has excellence to it. Um, she teaches widely. She is known as an expert in creative letter writing. And I said to her, we don't need to do a tech check because she's one of the best Zoom presenters. She was teaching a class for the Calligraphy Guild in Cape Town in South Africa that I teach at once a year. And she had them with two cameras and fully organized that people 10,000 miles away could have just a fantastic experience with her. So, Julie, thank you so much for coming on out and helping us celebrate 4 years of Maker U. And we look forward to your presentation.
Well, thank you for that glowing introduction. I do have to confess that today I freaked out a little bit thinking I was teaching for someone an hour ahead of me. And I was calling Anne going, what time am I supposed to be on? And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait a minute. They're in Minnesota. They're on Central Time like me. So yeah, I kind of freaked out a little bit. But anyway, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. Let's see. Why does it want me to do that? I'm going to do desktop. That makes me nervous when it wants me to do something different. Hide these meeting controls. Okay. Can everyone see this right now? This is my window with the acrobats. I'm going to full screen.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Okay, and let's make sure I can. Yep, I can. Okay. You never know. Even when you practice, something can happen. Whoops, got to get rid of that little thing. Okay. So, oops. See, this is what happened. What did I do here? This is what happened before. There we go. Sorry. So this is my calligraphic journey. Thank you so much for asking me to speak for your kickoff of Maker U. Really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy my presentation. There aren't that many people in here that I'm fine if you want to unmute yourself, ask a question during the time that I'm presenting. Just, try to make it on topic for, whatever I'm saying. And if you do have noise in the background, of course, we ask that you would mute yourself after you're done with your question. So, but yeah, feel free to ask me questions. So I'm going to get a little timeline here. So I'm not going to go through every detail, but the reason I'm doing this is because like all of us, calligraphy, I think, is a journey. I went to school in Chicago. I went to Columbia College. I finished in Columbia College. I started at Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois. But while I was there, I did not realize how much of a lettering city Chicago is and was back then. And I did learn typography, everything I needed to learn for graphic design. But what they didn't teach was the background of lettering. I didn't get a full, probably because I wasn't there for the full 4 years, kind of crammed the rest of my college into 2 years after I was at Bradley for 2 years. So I felt like now looking back, I wish I had known how much of a lettering city Chicago was. I think I would have done a different job. I probably would have gone into lettering right out of college. But, we don't know these things and we learn as we go along. my first introduction, other than type and learning type designers, I knew who Zopf was. I knew who, believe it or not, uh, Alan from San Francisco. I just blanked out on his name. Black something.
Alan Black.
Blackman.
Blackman. Blackman,
Blackman.
thank you.
Blackman,
We
yeah.
actually studied some of his letter forms, which were amazing, and I was so excited about them. But it wasn't really until someone gave me Tim Botz's book called Doorposts, which is Tim, if you know Tim, he's from Chicago. He does a lot of scripture, Bible verses, and someone gave that to me as a gift. And I was blown away by the use of color and creative letter forms. And I had never seen anything like that. Obviously coming from a graphic design background, where it's mostly all about type. So, but I tried to, I was working full time at this time. Tim only taught at the College of DuPage, which is in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, and I'm in Northwest Indiana. So for me to take a class on a weeknight with traffic, it could have taken me 2 hours to get there, 2.5 hours to get there. And so now, I mean, it's really about 55 minutes away normally, but with traffic, it would have been 2.5 hours. And so it just wasn't in my, probably wasn't just, it just wasn't feasible for me to do it. I was very young. I was newly married and we were very busy. And so never took a class, but I really wanted to take a class with Tim Botz because I had seen that book. And then we moved to Memphis for 2 years, just a job change thing. And while I was in Memphis, which was from 97 to 99, the lady cutting my hair said, "Oh, you're from Chicago. There's this guy named Reggie Ezel. He's coming to teach this year-long calligraphy class." And I was like, wait, what does that even mean? And I was in a position while I was there that I could take that class. And so I did in 1998. And that was the beginning. Like we have epiphanies, maybe a few epiphanies in our lifetime. And one of them occurred during Reggie's year-long class for me. I remember making the letter I with a broad edge nib. And when it turned out the way it should look, I put my head down on my desk and just cried. And I didn't want anybody to see me because I don't normally do that sort of thing. I was so overwhelmed by the fact that I was like, I would just want to do this for the rest of my life. This is beautiful. And then, of course, it took me another 100 tries to get it to look that way, which is what I always try to tell my students when I'm teaching. Don't expect, you may get something to turn out really nice. Put a little star on it or a little smiley because it's going to take you a while to make that consistent, So that was it. And then we moved back to Chicago area in 2000, and Reggie had told me all about the Chicago Calligraphy Collective. I joined, and I've taken our guild has 10 workshops per year, so 10 major workshops, as some people call them. And then we've now added an 11th one in November, like for beginners, a day for beginners. And usually one of the 10 is like a longer, like extended workshop, either that or it's the conference or something. And usually if we do have a conference, when there is a conference, we ask the instructor to come and teach. So we usually get in about 10 or 11 workshops a year. So I've studied with, as most of you have, studied with instructors from all over the world. I've listed these four here, Eve and Brody and Carl and Georgia, as kind of some of my probably bigger influences just because of the expressive writing that they do. And then in 2002, so here I am, a baby calligrapher when I joined. We didn't think we could have children. My husband and I were married for 15 years, and I got pregnant and I had a child. And so now I did have a little bit more time to devote to learning calligraphy because I wasn't working as much until he was old enough to go to school. But that also, I did not attend things like conferences and all that, which were completely not even on my radar. I didn't even really know about them as a baby calligrapher. So I would take a workshop maybe once a year, having a young child, and then in the summer times, not really thinking about going to a conference because you have a child at home. So it wasn't really on my radar to even do conferences at that point. 2007 was a big year for me because I now only being 9 years old as a calligrapher, I had started entering The CCC, we have 2 exhibits per year. One is our all members show, which is for everyone and it's not juried. And then we also have our exploration, which is a juried show. And at the time, it was held at the Newberry Library in Chicago. And there was an anonymous donor who would donate the money to the Newberry for them to pick a piece from our juried show every year. And it's called the Purchase Prize Award. And I won that year. And that was a shock. I didn't hear my name called because I was waiting for them to call someone else that I thought was the winner. And so, yes, I won. And because of that, I used my prize money to go to Bruges in Belgium to study with Brody Neuenschwander, whom I've already had some classes, with whom I had some classes already. So I knew of him, and it was an amazing opportunity. And I would have to say probably the beginning of that whole expressive, learning to be expressive, lively letters, that sort of thing. That was kind of the beginning for me. And then I attended the first conference in Chicago pretty much as a helper. Didn't really have much time to take a class. And my son was young, but he was old enough that my husband could stay home with him, and I wasn't nursing anymore. So I was able to go to the conference in Chicago. But again, not really experiencing the whole conference thing because I was working it basically, did a lot of the graphic design for that. And then about 2010 started teaching just in a local art center when one of our members who taught there, she had cancer. And then she passed her class on to me. So that was really very, very minimal teaching. And then the CCC asked me to teach a couple beginner classes, mostly on how to lay things out because I'm a graphic designer. And then in 2014, this is when the whole journey of teaching began for me, the travel teaching, as I like to call it. I won a second time the Purchase Prize Award, which none of us, well, prior to 2 years before that, one person who had won one time, there were only one-time winners all the way through, and then he won. Mike Kessick won a second time, and we were like, "Oh," because we don't know the criteria for the purchase prizes. That's nothing to do with us. What they choose is not, they call it, it's not a best of show. It's something that rounds out their collection. So we don't know what it is. And I won a second time. And at that exhibit, I was approached by another guild, South Bend, Indiana, to come and teach them. And I had no website. I had nothing up on anything that I was doing calligraphy. And I was thinking that they had me confused with someone else because I kept saying, I don't teach, I don't travel, I don't know what you're talking about. I think you have me confused with someone else. And they said, no, we want you to come and teach those lively, those very expressive letters that you do. And I had no idea what they were talking about and had to sit down and have a conversation with the woman who asked me to come. And out of that, we kind of came up with together what they saw in my work and some of the things that they had seen at the show, which I believe these 2 pieces were actually in the show. These are early works. And she liked the life and the freedom in the lettering, the free-flowing forms, my use of color, dancing letters. She kept using the word dancing, interesting line, using different tools, that sort of thing, bounciness. And so I started wondering, well, what are the things I'm doing to get these looks? So as I mentioned, I come from a graphic design background. One of the things that we did in school was critique, all the time, critique. And you put your work up on the wall and you have to learn how to look at it objectively because this is not about artwork. This is about clients. Clients are going to say nasty things if they don't like something because they're paying a lot of money to have this done. So you learn how to just kind of divorce yourself from, this, and you just listen to what people say. And so I thought, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put my work around my studio and I'm going to start looking at it with those objective eyes. Like, what is it about my work that somebody likes or would even want me to teach. And how do I teach it? Like, how do I break it down? And what is it that I'm doing? And so that's what I did. And one of the things that helped me a lot was the concept of line. And that is a very important rule in graphic design. It's a basic element. It's not just in graphic design, it's what we do as calligraphers. We have these shapes, these forms that we create. They're all made with line. But in design, line can be used to lead your eyes around the page. It could be an energetic line, happy, sad, whatever. It can create textures. And we know that when they're put into form or compositions, that looks a certain way on the page. And as a designer, we are very aware of how we want that to look on the page. And you do it as a calligrapher. You know that you don't want to ever write a whole bunch of lettering with minimal border, minimal margins. You always want to have a lot of air to give that lettering, to give it honor. You're trying to say, you're doing a certificate, say, for example, give it air and space around that so that everything that's happening in the center of this page can be looked at and the person viewing it doesn't feel cramped when they're reading it. And so line is a super important part of what we do as lettering artists, as well as graphic designers. And so I start applying that and started looking at the way I put things on a page. And now this is an exercise that I do in my classes, but it's also an exercise I learned when I was in graphic design is, I just wonder if I opened the wrong file. I changed this little thing over here earlier today, and I'm hoping I have the right file here. Let's see. So this is an exercise that we learn in school. When you distort a shape, for example, the letter O, which is the letter that one looks at when you want to understand whether it's a font or a hand. Is this based on a circle? Is this whole font, like uncial, for example, would be based on a circle. Italic is based on an oval. And so when you take these basic shapes of squares and circles, triangles and lines, and you start to play with them, you distort them, this is how we get to new hands and fonts. It's how we did it in school. I mean, we weren't really designing fonts when I was there. We were mostly trying to understand what fonts, what their distinctive characteristics were. So like we were taught, how do you determine whether it's Helvetica or Arial or Times Roman or Garamond or Palatino? What are the distinctive features? Because of that, I understand like the negative space, the positive, and what makes a letter form look the way it's supposed to look. So this is an exercise that I use in almost all of the classes I teach because it helps us to stop looking as letters as just the symbols with which we use to communicate, and it helps us to see them as form. And it's so important that we see that they are form, and then we can start to manipulate them and, analyze those features of what we're doing, and then create new alphabets from that. So some of the things that I was trying to determine, what does make my letter forms, what makes them lively? So I realized I was, the placement of the elements on a page was huge. One of my influences started to become Burgert, who I had learned about, I can't remember, early 2000s, I think. I love the calligraphic line. I highly recommend that book. It was translated from German to English by Brody Neuenschwander. It's kind of academic about line and calligraphy, but there are some really, really good principles in there. And also how he thinks about placement on the page and that sort of thing. This piece that you see over here on the right, this is one that I was writing. This is from a poem that I was doing. And I can't even remember what it says. The earth keeps its secrets or something. But anyway, I was influenced by a rock or a big boulder that I saw at the Grand Canyon and took a picture of it. And this was part of this poem that I was doing, but I was doing it a la Burgert. He was very much about looking at letters as shapes, and he would frequently manipulate them to express whatever mood or feeling he wanted in a piece. And so I know that Thomas Ingmeyer and Brody Neuenschwander, Yves Leterme, well, Yves did not study really with Burgert. He wasn't around when Burgert was teaching, but Brody and Thomas both did, and both of whom I've taken many classes with and love the way they think. And so kind of feel like I've been influenced by Burgert via them, Burgert's, sorry. So yeah, I wish he had been alive when I was doing what I'm doing, but I have to learn through other people. But anyway, I'm always thinking of where the next letter or the next word and where it should go when I'm doing, especially the expressive, more spontaneous work that I do. So again, what makes my letters lively? I feel like there's a quality of line. Like I understand line. There's movement for sure. There's this bouncing and dancing feel, a gestural quality. It gives the impression that things were written freely and with speed, which isn't always the case. There are times that I am actually slowing down to do certain things, but it looks like they were done with speed. They occur within a good composition on the page. And then negative space, a crucial part of the design. We studied some Eastern design when I was in college, and the Japanese are so amazing at graphic design. And understanding how to position things on a page. And that was one of our influences when I was in school. And I love their understanding of negative space is like no comparison to most cultures that do design. I think the Japanese are amazing. Oh, somebody is able to write on my screen. I just saw. That's interesting. I'm not sure where that came from. That's a new little feature. Did anybody else see that in the lower left-hand corner? Susie Ickles.
Yeah,
Julie. I am so sorry. I
It's
thought that
okay. No.
was mine.
I'm not bothered by it. I just
I
never
did-
saw that before.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a little pencil down in the corner on my
I see that.
and I thought, what does that do?
And it
Sorry.
makes somebody be able to comment or write things on the presentation.
Sorry.
That's okay. I just never saw that before. Zoom is always doing something new. So there we go. We just learned something new. No worries. I feel like that's like graffiti. You just like wrote all over my artwork.
Yeah, I'm not even seeing how to turn that off or where it got turned on.
I don't even know. I'm not going to touch it though, because the last time I touched that pencil, I wasn't able to advance my thing. So I'm going to leave
I
it
will
alone.
try to erase it.
It doesn't bother me. I'm fine with
Okay.
it. I just
I'm gonna-
didn't know what was oh, it's gone. Look at you. Okay.
with my finger.
Ah, there we go.
There we go. So why do I do lively letters? That was another question I was asking myself. Well, one thing I realized is that I get very bored with repetition. I do not like to do like envelopes and wedding stuff and all that. I've done it. I don't like to do it. I get bored with the repetitive work. My job in what I do for a living is graphic design, and then I do commissions, and then I teach, and and it's constantly changing, and I love that about my job. And so to do the same thing over and over again for me is just like torture. So I don't do formal hands like copper plate or things where you have to, repetitive, the same the same rhythm going all the time. It's just me. I love it and appreciate it when people do it well, but it's not something I desire to do. I love expressing myself with my calligraphy. I'll get to that in a minute. But the physiological reasons, so I had a whiplash accident many years ago when I was young, and it causes neck and shoulder pain. It rears its ugly head now that I've gotten older. And I'm fine normally when I'm not, but when I sit down to do anything that is more, formal or tight, I totally feel it the next day. I am in pain. And a few times when I was taking workshops with more, formal work where you're sitting down and you're using your slant board, and I'm trying to be ergonomically correct when I'm doing everything, I just have to get up. I'm constantly in pain from the tighter work. And so I think I just kind of gravitated toward things that were, where I'm moving my whole arm and I get to stand up and just play and express. And so I feel like there was a physiological reason that I kind of gravitated toward expressive writing. And it's the sheer bliss of it. I love that word, bliss. Plus, I had to show this little blissful piece. Um, and I also love using calligraphic tools in new ways. I always say, I am not a good dancer. Think Elaine on Seinfeld. But I often say that my pen is the way that I get to express the moves I would love to make. Oh, look at that. I broke the word love with an L and then OVE, to make with my body. So here's a piece that's very a la Yves Leterme, teaching me expressive writing. I'm using Brody's hand rhythmic pen to do this. Um, I did this about probably 14 times before I liked the way it turned out, even though it's all done, kind of on the fly. You're not really planning it, but you are kind of, by doing it 14 times, like, okay, that didn't work when I threw that stroke, but there it is. So one of my first inspirations, this is the piece that won in 2007. I look at that word hallelujah now in the brush lettering and I go, oh my goodness, that is awful. But this is a piece that I did. The backgrounds were done in a Judy Melvin workshop. She had us doing all kinds of wonderful backgrounds. And so after this piece, after I did the background, I put it in my drawer and I think it sat for 2 years. And then one day I thought, I'm going to pull that out and see what I can do with it. And I remembered why I was writing the way I was, which is totally asemic writing, scribble writing on the edges. But I was feeling like this was my way that I could worship the Lord. This, in my mind, this is what I was doing. And so I went and I found in the message Psalm 117, and I loved the words. And so I thought, I want to introduce some formal lettering in here as well, just to kind of counter the very gestural stuff that was happening. And so I came up with that lettering, which I had just kind of learned some of this sort of thing in one of Eve's classes. And then had been trying to learn pointed brush. I had taken a Georgia Deaver class, and that's the word hallelujah is actually done in gold. And then there's gold leaf, which you can't really see, but there are gold leaf confettis throughout this piece. This is with walnut ink and sumi and watercolor. And then this is all gouache. The letters are done in white gouache. And you can see it up close here. So Eve, I feel like this is a big influence from him. He does not do work that looks like this, but I was influenced by some of the stuff I was learning from him.
Julie, could you comment on your color palette?
Yeah, I love
here.
I love warm colors. It's just, and I love walnut ink. And then there was some lifting going on, which kind of almost looks like it's vellum, like stained vellum, but it's just Arches text wove. My color palette is just what I liked. Just a warmer palette. Any other things that you're thinking about with the color palette?
The infilling between the letters that you used here, it's a color palette that immediately brings to my mind an exhibit that my husband Charlie and I went to of Egyptian work.
Oh,
And this was, I don't know, 20 plus years ago that the Minneapolis Institute of Arts had. And it had quite a bit of papyrus painted work. And the colors used, and it was very standardized because they had examples spanning hundreds, a few thousand years, and it was always the same color palette of basically like what you have here.
Well, that would make sense because they would have had to use earth tones, right? From ground up stone. And And these are definitely earth tones. So yeah, I would think that that would totally make sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And these just the quality of the reds, the blues, the greens, the ochres, um are just right in there. I it just makes me think, did you see the same exhibit we saw?
No, no, isn't that
Because
funny?
it's definitely that. It's
Yeah.
definitely calling that to mind for me.
Wow,
And it's
interesting.
beautiful. I was so struck by that in this exhibit and thought, yes, these basic colors were so classic for Egyptian
Mm, mm.
painting of inscriptions as well as for work on papyri that it was the classic color palette for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years.
Huh.
They never changed it, and there's a good reason why. Because if it ain't
It,
broke,
it
don't
is
fix it.
classic. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Well,
this is
thanks for
beautiful.
that.
Yeah,
That's great
yeah.
information. Thanks, Janie. Um, yes. So anyway, this was a piece inspired by Eve. And then when I went to Bruges in 2007, Brody had just started, well, we were his first group. If you've taken his developing meaning class, this is part of a book. The book is many pages long, but where he was just leading us to do like very large sheets, and then we broke them down. And but mostly what it was trying. He had us like for 6 months before we went on the trip, read this book, and then we journaled, and it was about an event in your life, and then when we got there, we did. So I did this little illustration. This is me pondering something that I was always pondering as a kid. But this is where I started this more gestural or whatever you would call it, like the "oh, I desire too much." It's like breaking the rules, as Brody is, known to do. This was kind of the first time I was kind of really pushing the limits and incorporating illustration. Well, I did, not everybody did, but I did. And then this crazy writing. So I don't have the whole book here, but this was my first inspiration. And then starting to get more expressive. I call it mid Brody, because I found his pen. I can't remember when that first came out. This is the handwritten pen. And then learning about dropping in colors. Like this is a piece that's walnut with gold watercolor dropped in and some cadmium red dropped into it. Getting a little bit more expressive with color for me, and then the application of gold, which I love to use. And then this is kind of current Brody. This is in 2021 when he started his first Wrong Letters workshop during the pandemic, being influenced by foreign alphabets. And this is huge for me because I have no choice but to look at a foreign alphabet and look at it and see only shape. And so I love this exercise that because I don't know what it says, I'm not looking at these as the letter forms we use to communicate. I'm looking at them as shape. And so being influenced by only the shape. And so this word always here came from this row right here. Here's the A, the L, this could be a U, but then I saw this going on up here. And so I thought, I'm going to make this word always. That's literally what we did. It was like he just gave us these handouts, see if you can make a Roman word out of that. And so my first word was to write the word always. And then later I just Googled, I got to find a quote with always in it. So that's what I did. I had my phone and I just Googled and found this quote. And I built these letters on the fly. So there was no design. I didn't lay this out or anything like that. We just had each letter respond to the one prior and then go down. And so this is kind of what came out of it, which I thought was a really fun exercise. I mean, there's a lot of things I would change on this, but it was cool for what it was.
I have a question about the
Sure.
tool used. Is
So
a classic CoC script done with what?
it's done with a
broad-
broad edge tool that's cut, the left side. It's cut the different way than we use. So
and it's right to left.
correct, and it's written right to left. But that was how, and he did have us copy that first with a broad edge tool. But the actual piece I did, these were drawn. Well, I did them with a brush. So what did I do? I don't think I did these in pencil. I think we're actually writing them with a pointed brush. I may have done it in pencil and then filled it in. I don't recall that though. I thought we were kind of doing them. I think I did it with a pointed brush and highly retouched, by the way. And what you're seeing here is my cleaned up version of the original. So, which was done in gouache. But yeah, we did do these with that left cut nib, flat broad edge nib.
What was it, a metal nib or
Yes,
a
metal.
bamboo? Oh,
Yeah, it
okay.
wasn't bamboo, it was metal.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, there's a guy, this isn't what we were using for, I don't think it was, the Pratik, Pratik pen. He's a Turkish guy who makes the Arabic cut, nibs or pens. And he's been doing regular, just broad edge pens now, and then flat on, just flat cut like a antique Coit pen or automatic pen. And then he's also starting some new cuts as well. So I have a couple of his pens. He's on Instagram. I don't know his name, but the Instagram site is Pratik, Pratik, Pratik pen. And I might have been using one of his for this thing.
I have seen very old raised carved letters in Kufic script.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
Well, this is not my lettering, by the way. This was just from Brody's handout. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I do have my practice pages here, but this came from this exercise.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Burgert, as I said, Burgert is a very big influence for me. And this piece was actually a commission piece, and it's big. It's a half of a full-size sheet of Arches text wove. And I did it again. It has to be done. This is very gestural. So you do it once and you go, oh, I don't like that. And you're doing it on the good paper. Fortunately, it was text wove. So it was a little bit cheaper, but you can't really see here is there's a sprinkling of gold watercolor that sprinkles down, kind of rains down, and then some gold leaf confetti pieces. This was as if like God's blessings were tumbling down from heaven, like a waterfall kind of thing. But again, these strokes that were Burgert, this is kind of my version of Burgert's Akim or Kim or Akim. Some of these strokes are thrown up. They're not all like normal. So for example, when I do something like this on the D, this is a stroke I'm pushing because I'm trying to get, and if I would zoom in on this, you could see it a little bit more. There's some splattering going on from the black ink. It was done with the tip of Brody's hand-rhythmic pen. Very sharp, a lot of splatter, not too much splatter though. I didn't want this to be crazy black splatter. So I'm using just the tip of his that hand-rhythmic pen. But I'm throwing these strokes a certain way. And so obviously, I do kind of like the crashing over each other, but I didn't want it to become illegible. This is a commission, so it had to be legible still. But yeah, I might have 10 maybe different versions of this because I'm trying to get that move to happen, and you have to get in the rhythm as you're moving like this. So took a while. And again, now this is like major splatter from that pen. And this is an Italian quote that means nothing without joy. And so I wanted that splatter to happen. And this is where I just drop in, this is done with the walnut and then dropping in gold in there as well. So that's kind of this kind of gold green you're seeing in here is gold watercolor dropped into the wet ink. And again, very Burgert. This is my version of stretching Burgert's Akim. I have a class I teach called Variations. I thought it was pronounced Akim, but it's actually, I think it's a play on his name, which is Hans Joachim in German, Burgert. And so people say it's actually probably Akim. But I always thought, oh, variations on Akim. It sounds like variations on a theme. So that's what I was calling my class for a while. And these are just this is my interpretation of his Akim, stretching things, throwing strokes, kind of more based on his very abstract compositions than it really is on the hand that this little printed hand that he did. This looks a little bit more like what he does here. But these are just demos from when I was teaching the class online. But my version of his Akim or Akim. And then this piece was done, actually, this one this was purchased by the Harrison Collection at the San Francisco Public Library. I didn't do it for them. They saw it and then bought it after I did it. So this is also Akim, and then with a background of Sumi Sink art. So the quote is, you can see it here. I felt like it was very important that I had something that was very energetic. I feel fire and music under my feet. So I wanted that background to exhibit this sort of like, I don't know, beat music, something happening underneath. And then these are done. This is, I can't remember the name of this gold ink. It's very vibrant. I think it's called the copperplate ink. And it's very, very bold gold. I love it. So it's very striking on the page. And then I added the thicknesses later to kind of mimic music, make this look more musical. But this is very Burgert influence. And as is this one as well. And this was done for Easter. So this is all the chaos happening. This is actually done in a digital format. So the only thing that exists, I mean, this exists on paper as these scribbles that I scanned in and then reversed. And then these words exist on paper. The it is type. This was black ink that I turned into red in Photoshop. So this is completely done digitally. Well, I mean, the lettering and all the strokes were done by hand, but then scanned and put together digitally. So moving on, nature inspiration. I love things in nature and patterns. I'm always taking photographs of things. And I found these, I don't know if these are wormholes, bug holes. I don't know. It was in an old post in a pueblo in Arizona. And I took a picture of this and then did this quick sketch here and then turned that sketch into this poem that I've been writing. It's a poem by Marilyn McIntyre. And I used a lot of her quotes from this poem to do these Burgert exercises that I love to do. So just being influenced by this design turned on its side and then doing my letters. And this says where small creatures turn, all of the bug meanderings. So now moving more into this site, this is just a recent piece I did that was inspired by an alphabet I saw by Rudolf CoC. And I started doing these double-stroked letters. He had done these broad-edged letters that were just, done with a broad-edge tool. And I started doing, I was using, I think, a parallel pen, a wide parallel pen. And I started double stroking them. So going kind of this way with one stroke and then this way with another. And I kept getting this kind of flared look to my letters. And I thought, oh, they kind of look like bell bottoms. So I called this my bell bottom black letter. I don't normally do formal types of lettering, but I would kind of call this kind of crazy looking black letter. So this is my attempt at, doing something funky with black letter. It's not my, I'm totally a newbie when it comes to black letter. So, but anyway, this was in one of our recent exploration shows and it just was in, it got into Letter Arts Review for the annual juried issue. So if you get that magazine, you can see this a little bit larger. Also, this is 3 influences here. So during the conference in 2024 it was held in Davenport, Iowa, which is the home of Father Kadich, who wrote Origin of the Seraph. We had the opportunity on the free day, which was on Tuesday, to go up to the archives and see Father Kadich's sketchbooks. And that year, because I was so involved in planning for the conference, I did a lot of design for that, graphic design. I knew that I was not going to be able to have much time to create artwork. And I was also I was a part of the mentoring in Symbiosis, which is an online mentoring program started by Dorothy Lim Chu from Singapore. And she had asked me to be a mentor that year, which was great experience, except I don't know what I was thinking because I was also doing all the graphic design for the conference. Crazy. So then I had to come up with 3 pieces at the end of the year because as one of the mentors, we needed to be a part of the exhibit. So I was like, okay, so this year I'm going to take 3 specific workshops that are going to get me where I can make a piece that I can put in that show. And this was one of them. I took Brody's workshop at the conference. My class didn't go, so I got to be a student, which was wonderful. And I went upstairs and I was looking through Father Kadich's sketchbooks and I saw these gorgeous cubism sketches that he did. And he was doing people and faces and all that. And I thought, oh, I really want to try that with my letter forms. And I love making these little kind of sculptural looking things out of my letter forms. And so these are the words create, adventure, birth, and motherhood. So this piece is about my journey about being a mother. This is Bergert. This is kind of a Bergert's influence here. This says rend my heart, mend it, and repeat. That's what I feel like every time my son leaves, and then he comes back, and then he goes again. My son lives out of town. He's 23 now, so. But anyway, this is what I feel like. There's like a tearing every time child leaves, you know. And then this was the class I took at the conference was Brody's class on codes, alphabetic codes. So we created this code. This is a code. These are actually 2 words. They're my name and my son's name. And there was a picture I have of him blowing bubbles once when he was very little, and it was one of my favorite photos. And so this is our intertwining bubbles floating. So this is my piece that I did. It hangs as a triptych and it hangs from a little banner thing that I do. But this is 3 influences, Kadich, Bergert, and Brody. And then now moving into like the crazy letters that I love to do. These are actually from my Every Letter is a Jewel class, which is something I have taught online and for other guilds in person. And I love making just single letters on a little 3x3 or 4x4 square and then playing with actually these are not showing the way I design the letters in that class is that we actually treat the negative space as part of the design. These are not showing that. These are just some of my Imre Reiner letters. Imre Reiner was a mid-20th century type designer, artist. He studied with Ernst Schneidler from Germany. Imre was from Hungary, I believe. And he does some of the craziest things I've ever seen done with letters. You can look him up. Some of it looks very naive, but I love the way he played with letter forms. In fact, I have one of his books on design and letters, and he talks about his influences, some of which were Paul Klee, Picasso, different artists, and then he writes A 5-Year-Old Boy. And in the book, he has the 5-year-old boy's doodles, which I'm assuming was his son, one of his children, and where he came up with these, like, I call them dealy boppers and little twirly things happening. And his son's doodles, if they were his son, they look like little creatures. And so a lot of Imre Reiner's letters look like little creatures, which I find absolutely charming. So these letters are all a la Imre Reiner. And I love making crazy letters. And then someday they become alphabets. So that's when we start to analyze what's happening in this M and how can you make a whole alphabet that looks like that. So I also love, like I said, looking at foreign alphabets. I found this online one day when I was searching for foreign alphabets. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This was done in the 19th century. It looks like a crazy doodle that we would do right now. And so out of this became, this is just a little demo piece I did in my class. But it was inspired by, here's the G, which I did over here. Love that G, linking to that O because it swooped down. Actually, this part was swooping. Here's that A, which is over here. So I love this kind of stuff. Love it, love it. Love to play with this. And then this was 2019, right before everything shut down. We had Wissam Shaukat, who was from Dubai, and he's an Arabic calligrapher, and he blows my mind. I love, love, love his work. And he was teaching us looking at Arabic scripts, also, making them into Roman letters. But one of the things he was doing is taking things apart, putting it back together, like deconstructing letter forms. Love his work. You should look him up. He's fabulous. But this is a piece that I did kind of with a little Burgert influence from Akim. This is an Akim or Akim T, an S, excuse me, and the lowercase a. And this just says artist, but kind of, being influenced by the stretching of Arabic calligraphy, adding little dots and things. So this was influenced from Wissam. Paul Clay's concept of taking a line for a walk. I love doing continuous line letters and words. Something that we did, we did a lot of drawing in college. I did some continuous line drawing, but never really with letters. And then I started playing with them. And I think I took a Mike Gold class where I was like, oh, somebody else is doing continuous line letters. And so Mike had a crazy, wonderful way of doing things. And I know Yukimi teaches it. I do. I'm not sure who else teaches continuous line, but it's fun to see what everybody comes up with because they're so different. Everybody's is so different. And it's such a wonderful thing to do. It's harder, though, than doing a continuous line drawing because letter forms have rules. Where you're doing a continuous line drawing, you're just looking at an object and you're drawing it the way you think it looks without looking at your page, by the way. That's blind contour drawing. But for us as calligraphers, we need to make sure that those letters look somewhat legible so that if you want your reader to know what it's saying, they can. So these are two quotes by Paul Clay. A line is a dot. This kind of goes upside down. That went for a walk. And then this is upside down because I flipped it. And this is a drawing is simply, and you go over to here, a line going for it's just the negative space of the a walk, and then it goes through. So two intersecting quotes that I was just having fun with. This was just a piece that I did just for fun. Here are some continuous line letters that I've done stuff with. This was a little card for someone. And this was also a monogram for someone else. My New Year's card for 1 year. This was done, by hand on paper. And then I scanned it into Photoshop and dropped the color in digitally for my cards. And that's just a pencil drawing of one of my Imre Reiner letters, inspired by Imre Reiner. So were these, actually. This MC was inspired by Imre Reiner. These are two gifts that I gave to friends who are both calligraphers. Done kind of in they both are done. This is actually all continuous line going through the whole piece. These are just continuous line letters that they're not connecting to each other except overlapping.
Hey,
yes.
can you go back to, I'm laughing at your lower piece here, Shizuka.
You're laughing at this?
Yes, because it is everything but Shizuka. And I majored in Japanese. Shizuka means if you want someone to be quiet, you say Shizuka ni. Be quiet.
Well, this is her name. Her name is Shizuka.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's her name.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Didn't know that it meant quiet.
Yeah.
Well, this looks like something Julie would have done if somebody told her to be quiet as a child.
Okay.
I would have done the opposite, probably.
To me, the piece is bright and loud and definitely not quiet.
That's so funny.
So, anyway,
well, she never said anything. She actually said she really liked it, but that's funny. I didn't know that's what her name meant.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
Okay. All right.
That's why Julie should not do Japanese words, but this is a person's name, so. So this was that year that I had to come up with 3 pieces. This was a banner. This banner is about 6 feet long and about 24 inches wide, 2 feet wide. And it was done with Mike Gold in one of the classes he taught for our group. The same year that I'm trying to make all this work for this, end of the year exhibit. And Denise Locke from France came to Chicago that year, and I took her class because I really love her work, and I wanted something a little bit more expressive and pattern. And this was an exercise that she had done in one of her classes. These are actual words. This is writing, but you can't read it because we're overlapping. It overlaps 3 times. So you write the first block, and then you turn it 90 degrees, and then write the same thing, the text. So it's 4 layers of text, all different directions, all 4 directions around. So this is, again, something personal, and I used Brody's code in here as well as some other words and stuff. So, Barry Morentz, my friend Barry, love my friend Barry. He wrote a book called Morphing Monograms. He co-authored it with Marcia Friedman, who did Barry does his, when he rotates, he does these little rotating designs. He does them all manually. And then he did this book with Marcia Friedman, who did them digitally, which is how I do mine. I can't be bothered with spending time to do manual rotations. I'm like, I'll just scan the letter and put it in Photoshop and do it that way. And then I'll paint it. If I want it to be an original, then I'll just scan it, rotate it, trace it, and then, do it on good paper. But these don't exist except for, except this. This became I had these cut into snowflakes. So these exist as acrylic designs. And this I use for my mouse pad. I sent this to Zazzle and had a mouse pad made of that. That's that word artist that I did in Wisam's class. And I really just liked when I rotated it. So it's my mouse pad design. And then these are just other ones I was just playing with letter forms that I wanted to see what they looked like when I rotated them. But I love doing this because, again, it gets away from the fact that these are letters and now they become just these wonderful shapes and designs and patterns. I actually made some wrapping paper out of one of my rotations, which I don't have here. In 2024, my sister-in-law has a travel group, tour group that she does, and she asked me to come on the trip, which was so wonderful. I went to the south of France into Provence and had to teach ladies how to do art journaling. And I took one of Nancy Hayes Hill's. She's a wonderful journaler, by the way. I highly recommend her. Great teacher. She's a great artist. She's a graphic designer. She's retired now. But I took her class not because I was doing the other thing. I was taking it and then found out I was going to be teaching this. And I would not teach her techniques to my group. I was teaching them, basically, they weren't calligraphers. I was just teaching them how to do basic drawing and how to use things that we see in our environment as little, like use a Gothic arch on your page and then do your words and your images in there. So I was teaching them that. But anyway, all that to say, I took Nancy's journaling workshop and it was amazing. I love, love, love her techniques and her work. And this was a quote that I found or she gave us. I don't remember, but I just loved this. So this is an exercise we all did. We just painted rock. You paint little blobs of watercolor and then you gradually build them up and they become, hopefully, if you know how to draw, they look like stones. And then the water flows around them. The words flow around them. So this was fun for me. Another exercise I love to do in all my classes is we scribble with our non-dominant hand, and then we look for letter forms in them. And these 2 particular letters came out of my scribbles. And then this is actually from my Every Letter is a Jewel class where I'm using the negative space and I'm actually coloring the negative space in and not the letter, adding gold and watercolor to it. And then this funky looking K became the word funky here. And I think I made my Happy New Year card out of that 2 years ago, that letter form. This also has become an alphabet. Well, it's on its way to, I'm finishing up the alphabet book from this. So this is where I teach, where we get these scribbles, you find a letter, and now you have to look at them and figure out, well, what are the features so that you can make an alphabet from those features, which I'm still working on this alphabet. Almost done. Also, historical influences. We love history in calligraphy, right? So what can we do with historical letter forms in a more modern way? So that's kind of what I like to try. This was done with gouache, and it was using a historical letter form and then putting in a very kind of modern decoration to it. I think I actually did this in a class. Oh, yes, with Nancy Colmoni many years ago, many years ago. This I was just inspired by I think this is a half uncial form, and I just added a little bit of a twist to it, flair. And I made an alphabet book. This is actually part of another alphabet book I did. And then this E, very formal looking Roman letter E, done kind of informally. And then here's a black letter S that I just dropped in this is walnut, done with walnut ink. And then I dropped in the color and the gold. And a little drop shadow to that. I love doing asemic writing. So if you don't know what that means, it's just gibberish writing. This is my piece. It's called Secret Language of Joy. It's my little secret language that I just come up with and write when I don't want anybody to know what I'm saying. And I had seen some of Denise Locke's books, and there was a movement piece that she had done, and I really liked it. And so I started playing around with the movement that she was using. And this piece, the original, is walnut ink on Arches Text 12, and it's about 12 inches long. It's not a very big piece. And then I thought, I really like this piece. I want to see. I had taken one of Brody's classes. I was helping him actually with some Illustrator stuff. And we were trying to figure out how to get pieces ready for metal, to have them cut in metal and plastic and all that. And so this piece I had done, this piece is 2 feet wide. So it's much bigger than the original piece here, but this was cut in copper. And I really liked how that turned out. And then a friend of mine, or I'm sorry, she was not a friend, but she is a friend now. She was somebody who had taken one of my classes. I believe Nancy lives in Portland, and she's a jewelry designer. And she just out of the blue wrote to me and said, I would really like to turn one of your pieces into either a piece of jewelry or like a mini sculpture, and all for free. She wanted just to do this to bless me, she said. I was like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. Thank you so much. So she made this piece, which is only 5 by 7. So this is 7 inches wide by 5 inches high. And we were gonna do jewelry, but I really wanted this done. And I thought I'll do this piece. And I love that it's on a little base and it's like a mini sculpture. So this exists now in 3 different formats. Actually, I just had some black acrylic ones made too. So it's 4 formats now. And then this was done with Andrew Vander Merwe. I don't know how to say his name very well, Anne, but he's from South Africa. You probably know him as Beach Scriber. He's the guy who carves beautiful letter forms in sand in South Africa, in Cape Town, and then photographs them. And love his work. And he came to Chicago, and we went to Lake Michigan over here at the dunes. And, he had kind of analyzed he couldn't analyze it before he came. He had to read about the sand composition here because it's not the same as the seashore. Ours is not as hard pack as it is on the coasts. So we did some letter carving at the dunes. It was amazing. We had beautiful light. It was September, gorgeous, gorgeous lighting. And we actually got some nice work done. But then we also came inside, and he was teaching us about rhythm and movement in our writing. And then he had us doing like asemic pieces. So this came out of that whole thing, which was really fun. Abstract marks. So I had taken a class with Yukimi, and she had us bring some poetry or some quotes. And this was a John mirror quote about mountains and did a whole bunch of work that came out of that class, all mark making. And then later I came home and I continued with the quote, which I really liked, climb the mountains and get their good tidings. So this piece is pretty large. This is like, I want to say about 24 inches long. So the lettering's not very big, but I really liked combining abstract marks. I like making abstract marks with purpose, not just, making marks, but usually they have to mean something to me. So I usually have something in mind when I'm doing them, either, a piece of poetry or music is playing or something. And then I also did, I had a bunch of these abstract marks that I had done. I think, the abstract marks were done in a Sharon Zeugen class. And we didn't do any lettering in that class. That was just mark making and playing. And later I came back and made this book, which is an E. E. Cummings poem. In Just, it's called. And it's a spring poem. And so I turned those abstract marks into this book. So abstract marks can take on a calligraphic look. If we are lettering people, they're going to probably look very calligraphic. Are they influenced by my writing, or is my writing influenced by the marks? Sometimes it goes both ways. It switches. These, I think this was one of the marks I made in Yukimi's class. This was just done at home. I was thinking about the sea and rolling the waves and crashing and all of that. And then these were done at home as well. I was just playing around with, I don't know, just playing. And then these were done with David McGrail, who's from Ireland. He is a friend of Dennis Brown's. He came to Chicago and taught a class, but I did not take it with him. And then I found out about him, and he and his wife they don't anymore, but they owned a villa in the south of France. And in 2013, 14, maybe 15, I don't know, remember now, a group of us from Chicago went to study with him. So we had 3 days of mark making with David, 3 days off, and then Dennis Brown came and we did some other stuff with Dennis Brown there at the villa in the south of France, which was amazing. But anyway, came home with like a bunch of these beautiful marks. And he actually also did the dropping in of gold and stuff like that, which was really fun. They're just like these little tiny, you have to come up very, very close to appreciate them, which I like. I like that. You could do a whole exhibit of these tiny marks and have people come up real close to see all the little gold and things that are happening. I think that would be a fun exhibit. I'm a person who sees letters literally everywhere, and you have to be careful when you're looking. Don't do it when you're driving or when you're riding a bike at high speeds behind your husband, who's a cyclist, because I have fallen many times off my bike because I see letters in trees and in the woods and, wherever. So this was on a hike in Arizona. I was on a quest to get the whole alphabet, but there are physically some things that just don't happen with cactus that will get you to the certain letters. So for example, like I never did find an O, so I just kind of started taking pieces in order to make this. But I do have quite a lot of them. I have this, I found this wonderful K up on a hill, and it was literally doing this movement. So the H and the K were literally taken from, and so was the Y, taken from actual pictures that I got of the cactus. Here's one that was inspired by like a swan taking off or landing. I don't know if he's landing or taking off. This is one of my crazy, I don't know what you would call this, black letter formal, I don't know, just inspired by wrought iron railings. I saw this in Arizona, this little S, and this became this is from my Every Letter is a Jewel class, where we design within the 4-inch square. So it becomes part of the negative space is part of the design. And I use this form that I got from this picture. And then this is one of the granite things that I took at the Grand Canyon. And I just saw this swoopy looking A right here in that granite pattern. Um, so I love finding letters in my surroundings. And by the way, these letters that you see here have all been part of this journey. This was my craziness happening the first month of the lockdown in March of 2020. I went outside and we have a bike path right near our house, and I was walking along, and the yellow stripe, which is paint, here in the north, everything freezes and cracks, and then when it thaws in the spring, you find all these crazy cracks in the paint. And my goal was, I was like looking down while I was walking, and I was like, oh, I see letters in there. So I thought, I'm going to find the whole alphabet. And I did. So my rule was they had to all be found. Nothing is manipulated in Photoshop. The only thing that was manipulated was I had to separate the letters because this was a long strip of yellow. There's something happening directly right next to the letter form. Another letter is occurring or another shape is occurring. So what I did is I also took pictures of the asphalt so that I could grab some of the asphalt and then isolate each letter. So the only digital work that's being done is adding more of the asphalt around so I can isolate the letter forms. Other than that, all of the letters were found in situ. I did nothing to manipulate them. And I love what happened. I love this Q. I call it my grumpy Q. It's like he's a little grumpy. He's got a downturn to his mouth right there. Grumpy Q. And I love that some of them are happening as negative space. So the A is happening as a negative letter. The F is negative space. The Y, the X. I love that. And then some of them are positive. So
I
cool.
love these too. These are marvelous.
I just think I couldn't believe it. I was so excited. And I did get some very crazy looks out there. This was early. This is like the first week we all shut down. So here I am roaming around, staring and taking pictures of the stripe on my bike path. But how fun is that? And then some of my other influences, I don't know, they just come from your imagination, right? So I did these Whistle, Far, and We in a class with Stephen Rapp, and Stephen was really good. He's the one that actually came over and was like, oh, I like what you're doing with that in kind of keeping like this inside curve and putting angles around it. But I didn't do it all the time. As you'll see here, started writing notes, and like I wasn't doing it all the time. And then later I put this piece away and I thought, oh, I'm going to use that. I love that idea of doing an inside curve and then putting outer angles on it. And then took a class with Lisbeth Bowdens because she was coming to do layout for calligraphers or something like that. And I thought, I'm going to pull those out and use those letter forms for this class. And that's where I came up with this piece. So this was designed in a weekend in Lisbeth's class. And since then, I've started teaching my inside curve letters, which is a fun rule. It's like inside curve, outer angle. And how it happens is completely part of the fun of this alphabet because you can either do formal letters like this, or you can do crazy letters and do it and see what happens to them. I just love it. I love it. But then I was in France in 2024 and look what I found. And so I called up my friend Bob Williams, who has just recently passed away. He was my dear, dear friend from the Newberry Library. And I'm like, Bob, look what I found. I thought my inside curve letters were so original. He's like, yeah, well, he's the one that we both were laughing. Like, did I time travel to 1553, which is when they were, and shared my inside curve letters with some monks, or they did with me? Or is this proof that there is nothing new under the sun? Like, I thought I came up with this, but I didn't. Somebody else did too.
Is this a ink pen drawn
No, these are
pen
carved.
letter?
Nope, they're
They're
carved in stone.
carved.
Yeah, they're carved on a
Wow.
wall. This is on a wall.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
walking past and I took the picture and I was kind of scanning my pictures and I was like, what? Wait, what? What's going on? So I ran back over. I'm like, oh my gosh, those are my inside curve
Wow.
letters. Not
Maybe,
all of them.
maybe you were the monk.
I don't believe in reincarnation, but I think time travel would be a really fun story. I time traveled. Either I took the class from them or maybe I taught the class. I don't know. I just think it was hilarious. So nothing new under the sun, people. Right?
Wow.
Delightful.
These are impressive and very hard to carve like that.
Well, I would think so.
Someone got bored doing classic V-cut
I think
letters.
they did. I think somebody was bored. And also it's like almost looks like,
Oh
well,
my
it does like
gosh.
look there's a baseline, sort of, but kind of going over the baseline a few times. It's like, I don't know. This looks pretty crazy. I love that Q. Look at this Q right here.
Mm.
That's funky.
And
Anyway,
where was this?
this was in France. I was in gosh, now I don't remember where I took this picture. It's probably logged in my journal. I want to say this was when I was down south and was a church. Oh, I wonder if this was when I was in there was a medieval, it was a little chapel up in one of the little mountains, up on a cliff. But, oh, what was it called? I can't remember. Anyway, pretty cool, huh?
Yes, it is.
And then here is the compilation of all my inspiration, which is what this border here on the left is. This piece is also in the latest Letter Arts Review, the annual juried issue. It's vertical. I did it as a poster, kind of. So these are all stacked on each other, but they didn't fit in here. So I chopped them up. But here is a letter that came from a scribble. I kind of call it my little pea pod alphabet. I don't know, it looks like a little pea pod or some kind of organic thing. I have still not finished. I have some letters for a full alphabet, but not all of them yet. This is my inside curve rules, and I got this from a formal historical letter. This is just me playing with a tool. I don't know what kind. Here's inside curve kind of with I don't know what that would be, a formal D. Here's a pointed brush E. This is done with another tool. This is taking Carl Rohr's class on inspiration from mid-20th century type designers. I was playing around with this funky looking sort of, this isn't the G that I saw, but it kind of wound up becoming like this. Another scribble. So these are all my different letter forms, all my different influences. Here's like a Georgia Deaver pointed brush, N, lowercase n. Here's a Chinese looking or Japanese looking. I did this with a big Chinese brush, by the way. And my inside curve and some other letters. So there's the Kufic S. And that's it. Thank you so much for having me, letting me speak, share my journey. So I know I'm a little early in ending, but I wanted to save some time for questions, or if you needed to see a tool or had a question about a tool and wanted to see it demonstrated. Do you want me to leave this up for any reason, or should I go ahead and get out of this?
Let's get out of that.
All right.
And you can see, there we go. You can see her information there. So, who has some questions for Julie? Other than we're all just a little dumbstruck that 26 letters and 100,000 different ways of doing them, right?
Was I supposed to speak for 2 hours? I didn't think you would
No.
want to listen for 2 hours.
No.
Okay.
Colleen, you're muted. I think you were saying something.
Oh, I do. I have a question about the last one that I was floored. The 1553 French
Oh, yeah.
carved piece. How generally about how high was the X height for those?
Those were, well, they weren't, there was no X height. I think they were all caps. But I want to say that, so the piece was on a wall. And I want to say the whole piece was probably about maybe 5 feet tall by about 3 feet wide. And so I want to say that those letters were about 2 inches high, about an inch and a half to 2 inches high.
Okay.
Not big.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
I know. It's crazy. I was like,
Yes.
doggone it. I thought of those things, but I did because I never saw that piece before.
That's wonderful.
But we're all just borrowing, aren't we? You want
You
to
never
borrow
know what
and then
inspiration's going to pop up somewhere, sometime, something different, right? And
right.
all of us are, I'd say to people, we are basically magpies. We're collecting little bits and pieces, and we put them in our nests, and we've got no clue what we're ever going to do with them. And then 20 years later, boom.
Yeah. Yep. But the goal is to try to make it your own and not just steal from someone, but to make it your own, right? Um, and that's always what I'm trying to do. Like when I take a class with someone, I want to learn from them, but I don't want somebody to look at my work and go, "Oh, you must have, you did that with Brody or you did that with Carl or whatever." I mean, obviously you're going to see that when you're first working on something, but the goal is to eventually make it look like something you would do. But then I also have this rule when I go and I take a class and I go, "Oh, that kind of looks like something Julie Wildman would do. How can I make it look like something I didn't do?" I'm always like challenging myself that way. Usually that means I work with my non-dominant hand. So I'll do that sometimes. I'm just always trying to find new ways. Like I said, I kind of get bored with the same old, same old. So I'm always trying to do something a little bit different. And eventually I want to make it my own. I want to work with it to develop something that looks like something I would do and not Brody or Carl. So
I'm curious, have you ever held a brush in your toes and tried
I haven't tried the
writing
toes
that
yet.
way?
No, I have tried my mouth.
Oh,
Not,
that's
I haven't,
interesting.
yeah, I've tried my mouth. I have not tried my toes.
Summer project.
We should do a class. We should do a class. Let's do a class where you're
Well,
only allowed to write with your toes.
well, the reason I'm asking is because back in 1986, I was at the clearing in Door County,
Oh,
Wisconsin,
yes. I've heard of the clearing.
and I took a class. It was all week long with Thomas Ingmeyer for half the day
Oh,
and Kazuaki Tanahashi for
oh,
the
it
second
does.
half
Oh,
of
my
the day.
goodness. That had to be wonderful.
And with Kaz, we were doing
Excuse me.
the line.
Okay.
And so some of us were remarking by the end of the week saying, gee, when we go home to our husbands and they ask us, what did you do all week, honey? And we'll say, oh, we did a line. And they'll go, all week you did a line? How could you do that for just a week? So
And you paid how much to do that?
yeah. But because Kazuaki is a Japanese calligrapher,
Yeah.
and um he I was so stuck in the Japanese brush calligraphy that I had learned ages ago when I had been an exchange student in Japan back in the mid 70s. I could not loosen up. I was really, really in this one particular mode. So I instead of using my right hand with the Japanese brush, I started using my left, trying that. And that
Yeah.
was better, but I was still kind of stuck in it. So I finally just took off my shoes and tried it with my foot. And that got me loosened up. It was
Very cool.
it was interesting. I mean, with a Japanese brush, it worked.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
bet.
so yeah, he was Kazuaki was a very interesting
Yeah.
teacher too.
Cool. I've
And
heard a lot of good things.
yeah, and with an amazing sense of humor that completely floored us one night.
Cool.
Because he can dress as the Zen Buddhist monk, very austere kind of character, and all of a sudden he'll say something that'll have you just cracking up and falling off your chairs. So yeah,
Oh,
that was a good workshop,
I'll
a
bet.
good workshop week.
And
Cool.
Roxanne put into chat talking about writing with toes.
Yeah.
That when she was 16, I visited a woman in an iron lung
Oh
who
my.
wrote and painted with her toes holding the
Oh,
brush. That was in
whoa.
Wayzata, Minnesota.
How cool. Well, sad, but really cool.
Yeah, amazing.
Ah,
Any
I think
other questions or comments? Yes, Mara.
Hi there, Anne. Julie, looking forward to tomorrow
oh,
very
good.
much.
Yay.
I'm curious to know when I look at the description, and I have to confess, I downloaded my handouts from you, but I haven't printed them, haven't looked at it.
Okay.
So apologies if it's redundant, but of what you talked about, excuse me, in your presentation, is there anything in particular from it, which was fabulous, by the way,
Thanks.
that you're going to focus on tomorrow, that we can look forward to? Or I
Yes.
think I have
So
a feeling there's not going to be anything you do that I'm not going to like. So, curious to know.
we are going to be using the ruling and folding pens, folded
Yes.
pens, sorry,
Yeah.
ruling and folded pens. And that includes, so the ones that I use, and that I will show tomorrow are, things like the Dreaming Dogs and Ruling Rider, various other weird things. Like this is called an Easy A pen. I'll talk about that tomorrow. Folded pens, cola pens, if you made your own cola pen. By the way, it's a 2-hour class, so you can just follow along and then do things later. You know what I mean? So it could be more like a demonstration of things. And then my favorite tool, which I mentioned quite a few times in this, is the Brody pen, the handwritten pen.
Great.
Pen.
Yeah.
So yeah, and traditional ruling pens we're going to be using. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. They make expressive marks, but mostly what I'm going to be showing people is how do you use these tools? Some people don't even know, how to hold them or do it. So we'll spend a little time with that. I don't want to, it's only a 2-hour class, so I want to be able to get to some of the expressive writing.
2 hours is amazingly short.
Yeah.
For all you have to offer, but we're
We'll
grateful
just pack
for
it in there. But you have the handouts.
For sure.
You can play.
Yeah.
Mostly the handouts show my samples of different things and what I
Thank
used
you.
to make them.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments?
I popped into chat the link to register for tomorrow for the few people that are out here that aren't going to be joining us tomorrow. Because it's going to be a fun day. And we now know Julie makes everything fun.
I hope so. That is one of the things I am not trying to be like a Brody or a Carl or a Julian Waters. That's not my thing. I am not, the rock star of calligraphy. But what I do love to do is give people an enjoyable experience. I mean, I want to teach too, but I want you to understand that lettering can be fun. There are ways that you can look at letters, you can look at them in new ways, you can create your own letter forms. I'm all about creating new letter forms. That's what I love to do. So when you take a workshop with me, you're going to have hopefully a fun experience because I don't want anybody to be intimidated. And then, I love serious stuff. I love studying. I love the formal and traditional. That's what we all learned. But I do like pushing the envelope and breaking the rules and trying fun stuff. So that's me.
Always fun. All right. Last call for questions, comments. Well, a big thank you to Julie, a big thank you to Colleen, a big thank you to everybody who's joined us here tonight. The numbers just kept going up and up, and it was really exciting to see so many friends of the colleagues as well as colleagues members. So this is the power of a Zoom meeting. We do these over the winter. The rest of the year we meet in person, and we may have the odd Zoom drop-in guest as well. So Julie, you never know when we're going to call on you again. So
Okay.
thank you so very, very much.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for being with me tonight.
Absolutely. The Maker U starts tomorrow morning. We will have the Zoom room open probably half an hour before the official start time. And so you can join us from whatever part of the country you are in. We look forward to having you with us for a lovely day of learning, experimenting, playing, building community, and relishing this art form that we all enjoy so very, very much. So thank you all so much for joining us here this evening. And we look forward to sharing our wonderful day at St. John's in April. And then May, we're at Hillside Church. And so come and get eyeballs on people. So everybody, keep your pens and brushes wet. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
See you in the morning for those who are in the class.
Indeed.
Great.